You hear the buzz? Can we do something about that? Krishna. When did the electricity go? I just went out, huh?
Since yesterday.
Since yesterday.
It's on and off. It came at night for some time. And then off part of the morning. Is it better?
Yeah, it is better. Not perfect, but it's much better. Okay. Good. You got it. Thanks, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. No, not so good.
Oh, yeah. Hang on.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Giridharadhari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanchari Yamuna Tira Vanchari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Giridharadhari Gopi Janavallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanchari Yamuna Tira Vanchari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtototra Shri Srimad Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtototra Shri Srimad Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavin Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Asamaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam namaskritya Narang chaiva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayadviriye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of fortune, and Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavattama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord who is glorified in transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 8th day of June 2018 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order. Chapter 1, genealogical table of the daughters of Manu. Text number 4. Yastayo Purusak Sakshad Vishnu Yagya Sarupadrik Yastri Sadakshina Bhuter Angshabhutana Payini. Okay. Okay, sorry. Yastayo Purushak Sakshad Vishnu Yagya Swarupadrik Yastri Sadakshina Bhuter Angshabhutana Payini. Yastayo Purushak Sakshad Vishnu Yagya Swarupadrik Yastri Sadakshina Bhuter Angshabhutana Payini.
Yastayo Purusa Sakshad
Yastayo Purusak Sakshad
Vishnu Yagya Swarupadrik
Vishnu Yagya Swarupadrik
Yastri Sadakshina Bhute
Yastri Sadakshina Bhute
Angshabhutana Payini.
Angshabhutana Payini.
Yastayo Purusa Sakshad
Yastayo Purusak Sakshad
Vishnu Yagya Swarupadrik
Vishnu Yagya Swarupadrik
Yastri Sadakshina Bhute
Yastri Sadakshina Bhute
Angshabhutana Payini.
Angshabhutana Payini.
Yastayo Purusa Sakshad
Yastayo Purusak Sakshad
Vishnu Yagya Swarupadrik
Vishnu Yagya Swarupadrik
Yastri Sadakshina Bhute
Yastri Sadakshina Bhute
Angshabhutana Payini.
Angshabhutana Payini. Now did I go somewhere?
I don't know. He should be back.
I'm telling you, if Prabhupada was here, he would say, where are they? Where are they? Where are they? You're going to go do something, right? You need another pastime. Someone went to do like some essential thing for the deity. He says it's complete mind. It's not good. Okay, word by words. Yaha, one who. Tayo, out of them. Purushaha, male. Sakshat, directly. Vishnu, the Supreme Lord. Yagya, Sarupadrik, accepting the form. Ya, the other. Stri, female. Sa, she. Dakshina, Dakshina. Bhute, of the goddess of fortune. Angshabhuta, being a plenary expansion. Anapayini, never to be separated. Translation. Of the two children born of Akuti, the male child was directly an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his name was Yagya, which is another name of Lord Vishnu. The female child was a partial incarnation of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, the eternal consort of Lord Vishnu. Can you make sure all the doors close? Yeah. The swinging door and the other door, the kitchen door. Thank you, Prabhu. Purport. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is the eternal consort of Lord Vishnu. Here it is stated that both the Lord and Lakshmi, who are eternal consorts, appeared from Akuti simultaneously. Both the Lord and his consort are beyond this material creation, as confirmed by many authorities. Narayana Paro Vyakpat. Therefore, their eternal relationship cannot be changed, and Yagya, the boy born of Akuti, later married the goddess of fortune. I assume he didn't marry his sister. Hopefully that'll be clear now. We're going to read the next verse. Anindye sugaham putvya putram vitatarochisham swayam bhuvo mudayukto ruchir jagraha dakshinam. Swayambhuva Manu very gladly brought home the beautiful boy named Yagya, and Ruchi, his son-in-law, kept with him the daughter whose name was Dakshina. Purport. Swayambhuva Manu was very glad to see that his daughter Akuti had given birth to both a boy and a girl. He was afraid that he would take one son and that because of this his son-in-law might be sorry. His son-in-law Ruchi might be sorry. Thus when he heard that a daughter was born along with the boy, he was very glad. Ruchi, according to his promise, returned his male child to Swayambhuva Manu and decided to keep the daughter whose name was Dakshina. One of Lord Vishnu's names is Yagya, because he is the master of the Vedas. The name Yagya comes from Yajusham Pati, which means Lord of all sacrifices. In the Yajurveda, there are different ritualistic prescriptions for performing yagyas, and the beneficiary of all such yagyas is the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Therefore it is stated in Bhagavad Gita 3.9, Yagyarthat karmana. One should act, but one should perform one's prescribed duties only for the sake of Yagya, or Vishnu. If one does not act for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or if one does not perform devotional service, then there will be reactions to all one's activities. It does not matter if the reaction is good or bad. If our activities are not dovetailed with the desire of the Supreme Lord, or if we do not act in Krishna consciousness, then we shall be responsible for the results of all our activities. There is always a reaction to every kind of action, but if actions are performed for Yagya, there is no reaction. That's capital Y. In other words, Lord Yagya, Lord Vishnu. Thus, if one acts for Yagya, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is not entangled in the material condition. For it is mentioned in the Vedas, and also in the Bhagavad Gita, that the Vedas and the Vedic rituals are all meant for understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From the very beginning, one should try to act in Krishna consciousness. That will free one from the reactions of material activities. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnanandjana Salakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, Jamal, you'll remember tomorrow. Text 6? Okay. So, the subject here is Yagya in two ways. Just like the subject is Lord Yagya, Lord Vishnu, and the process of sacrifice. So, this famous verse in the 3rd chapter, which Prabhupada references, 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Yagyarthat karmanon yatra loko yam karma bandhanaha, that work has to be performed as a sacrifice for Vishnu. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. So the idea here in this chapter of Gita, this is Karma Yoga chapter, is that the explanation is given that we're suffering in this world because we're bound up by the results of our previous activities. Now this includes, of course, sinful activities, which produce more suffering than good activities. But even materially good activities still produce the basic suffering of birth, old age, disease, and death. So the point is made in the purport that the long one that I read, that no matter what you do, that's not a sacrifice for Vishnu. That's the whole point of this verse. That binds you. Yagyartat kamano yatratya lokoyam karma bandhana. Karma bandhana. We're sitting here and we're all bound up. We're here in the material world because we're bound up by the results of our previous fruitive activities. And the way to get out of that bondage is by acting in sacrifice. Now, Prabhu, in the purport to that verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhu begins talking about it. This is acting in Krishna consciousness. But so this is again one of the examples of how your desires, your heart is meant to be purified, because no one wants to be bound up. Bound up. This is the basic teaching of Bhagavad Gita, of Vedic culture, is that we're spirit souls. We're by nature eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss. But now we're not experiencing that nature, because we're experiencing ourselves as physical bodies, which is subject to all kinds of miseries, to birth, old age, disease, and death. So the reason why is because we've gotten into this syndrome, if you will, of working fruitively, working for the benefit of the body, working for to fulfill our material desires, which are tied up with the senses and the mind and intelligence. So we've completely lost track. So the way out of that is to begin by acting in sacrifice. Now, this word yajna is very prominent in our transcendental activities, not just activities to get free of bondage, but in the Sankirtan yajna and the japa yajna. If you read the 10th chapter of Gita, you'll see that Krishna identifies with this and this, and then when it comes to yajna, he says, yajnanam japa yajñosmi. Of all the sacrifices, I am the sacrifice of japa. So it's obviously very essential and important. So in Krishna consciousness, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is bringing us up this yoga ladder. And it begins with, beginning where you're at. Well, I'm doing something in this world to live. Everyone has a duty. Now in the Gita, of course, it's generally described within the varnashram system. You're doing duties as a Brahman, as a Kshatriya, as a Vaishya, as a Shudra, or even Antyaja means outcast with an E at the end. But still, you're doing some livelihood, something to live in this world. So one has to somehow dovetail one's activities, even one's livelihood, as a sacrifice of Vishnu. And that's what the whole idea is between offering your food. The very next verse talks about that. Yajna santo, or one of the few verses after that, because it's number 10 in the Bhagavad Gita. That the santas, the saints, are purified by eating only foods that have been offered for sacrifice. In other words, remnants of sacrifice when we eat prasadam. So, because eating can be a tremendous bondage in this world, a tremendous source of sin and bondage and suffering, even on a material platform. People are seeing, because they've sold the capitalists. The capitalists are described in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So much money I have today, so much I have tomorrow, right? And it becomes your passion. That's what your life is all about. And besides, as Prabhupada points out, you can still only eat 4 chapatis. You may have $100 million, but you still can only mate so many women, and you can only eat so much, So, but so it doesn't dawn on them. But the accumulation of wealth and power itself becomes a sense gratification. That's the intoxication. When we read about the miser, right? Misers that come up in the Gita, right? It's Kripanas. So the miser is someone for whom the wealth itself is the object of sense gratification. Just to see it, or they say just to key it in and see your bank account,
And a further development of that is that you have more than anyone else. So you've cheated someone out of money. That in itself is a sin. It becomes very demoniac, as Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita. So we tend to project our mood of this is who I am and this is who you are, and this is who he is, and that's the way they are. That's their eternal identity. In other words, in the material consciousness, everybody identifies with who they are at that particular time. The 5-year-old is not thinking, okay, I'm eventually going to be old. I mean, they do theoretically, but they feel as this is who I am, a 5-year-old, and they're seeing the world through the 5-year-old eyes and everything they can tell. And gradually, it changes. So the materialist, the gross materialist, the demonic materialist, who's a million miles away from Jagya, who wants everyone to sacrifice for him, taking the position of God. This is the supreme demonic mentality. But that's really what we are. We're all little gods trying to pretend to be little gods and control our little sphere of influence so that we'll be served and we'll be pleased and things. So the idea of sacrifice is 180 degrees against that. Instead of enjoying the fruits, you sacrifice them for a higher cause, right? And every religion has that. You come to the church, you're supposed to give something, right? Or you give your time. There's a church benefit. Okay, we'll bake some cakes and all that. That's a sacrifice. You sacrifice your time for the higher good. And that's really what makes human life bearable. The father is sacrificing for the children, and the wife is sacrificing, raising the kids, having the children. I wish I can't even imagine having a job. What that means. So that giving for the benefit of others is really what the currency is of any kind of human life. But it still stays within the orbit of materialism if it's just serving some others' bodies or your own children. Or you see, Prabhu talks about it. So that Jagya has to be for Vishnu. And in the Vedic culture, the names are synonymous. Yagya means Vishnu or sacrifices. And here the very son is named Yagya. He's an incarnation of Krishna. So now what happens with Jagya here is that, as I mentioned the last time I gave class, is that he takes the role of Indra. This happens sometimes. Brahma or Indra, they sometimes are Vishnu when there's no person available, or they get killed in some battle or something. The position has to be filled, and so Krishna will step in and fill it, as he does here with Jagya. We learned that in the 8th canto. So, but this principle of sacrifice, now, our two main sacrifices, Sankirtan Jagya and Japa Yagya. So what's the sacrifice? Well, you have to sacrifice your time. The first thing is, you have to have faith. This is why there's that nice song where Nityananda's opened up the marketplace of the holy name, and he's selling it. It's a marketplace, he's selling it. And what's the price? Your faith. If you have no faith, you're not going to do it, right? So getting that faith and nourishing the faith, this is actually the role of the great acharyas in planting the faith. As you may have heard, I've been reading the Lilamrita. It's such a wonderful book. We should constantly be rereading that. And how Prabhupada, he came to America, and as he expressed right in the Boston Harbor, how are these people going to be able to understand? They're so immersed in the modes of nature. You could just see the Boston activity. And of course, he knew. He'd read up and he knew. So he prayed to the Lord to somehow give him the words to say to impress these people about the importance of this. And it was very difficult. He gets where is he going to go? He goes to the one place where he has a connection to Pennsylvania, to Butler, Pennsylvania. All right, not much. I mean, he made an impression there, but he wasn't really able to get anyone started chanting. So he said, "Well, I got to go to New York. Do or die." He goes to New York. What to do? So somehow he contacted, Dr. Mishra. He was able to stay. So he wasn't on the street, although he spent plenty of time on the street. He wasn't, living on the street. He was able to buy his You know, Krishna obviously moved people to help him. But when he finally was able to get people chanting, and this was another way you can see Krishna moving him. You know, the music is so important. It's so important. The kirtan, you know, having someone who can play the drum and the kartals who can sing and bring the Sankirtan Yajna means, you know, the dancing and the singing and the playing of musical instruments. Just a few musical instruments, but it has to be played right. That's what opens the heart and the mind, and it keeps you chanting and hearing, so that you can become purified. So what did Prabhupada have? No madongas, he had the little bongo drum, you know. But he had his heart, and he had, you know, and he's right in the middle of a little, you know, musical area. These guys living in the Bowery. I know that area, you know. At that time it was like much worse than it is now. All homeless, you know, they basically all went there. There were thousands of them all over the place, from all over the country. And so, but the poor artists and musicians, they would rent these lofts. They're cheap rents, and they're big, so they could have, you know, some practice their music or mostly do art. So he was able to get into one of these lofts. And there he had the kirtan, it's a little temple. You know, the guys would come and they would bring their instruments and they'd play the kirtan. And they got it going. Enough so that, you know, Mukunda, who Michael Grant was a professional musician, and he was attracted and he joined, and other people, you know. So with the chanting and Prabhupada speaking, he was able to plant enough faith for people to become willing to help him eventually get that 22nd Avenue. And that was where he really had his own place. But you can see how the holy name itself, that's Krishna, gives one an experience. So the Sankirtan Yajna is much more, you know, than just getting free of your karma. You know, it's called the Yajna because you still have to sacrifice. But the motive isn't really to get free of your karma. You know, I mean, does anyone come to the temple and, oh, I really got to get washed off from karma? You know, I mean, that's an important benefit, and you feel the emotional and the intellectual and mental benefits from that. You know, that's part of it. But really, we're trying to go far beyond that, and to attain, you know, attraction for Krishna and pure love for Krishna, which is what the Sankirtan does for you. But it's important to know these points, as Krishna does. He spends time in the 3rd chapter, because where people are at is that they feel the pain of living in this material world. They feel the burden of karma. If you accept the understanding that, oh, this is reactions that I'm suffering. You know, this is why this is going on. I need something to get free of these reactions. Fine, here's your method. Here's the Yajna. You know, and it's not just kirtan Yajna. It's also dana. Dana is a kind of sacrifice, really. Right? Krishna describes in the 18th chapter, don't give up your tapasya, your dana, your Yajna, your austerity, sacrifices, and charity. These go on even after you're realized. So they're not mutually exclusive. Just like giving a sacrifice, someone comes in here and gives $100. You know, that's a sacrifice. They worked hard for that. You know. Now they may or may not be doing it for the motive of getting free of karma, but they're giving that, you know, $100 here, not some church somewhere, but here. And there's Radha Krishna. You look up at Radha Krishna, who's smiling at you. It's already bhakti. You know, it's not just Yajna. But understanding this Yajna now in our own in the Bhagavatam, later on in the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, there's this word, you know, Yat Karoshi, Yadashnasi, Yadjahosi, Dadasi, Yatapasasikone, Tatpurushamanapanam. This is kind of where, you know, a progression of Yajna. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you give away, do it as an offering to me. Right? This is kind of advanced Yajna. Now in the Bhagavatam, there's this famous verse, I learned it was famous, even more detailed. And you can see how, you know, this idea of Yajna really can culminate in pure devotion when you take it to its ultimate degree. So kayena vacha manasendriyava buddhyatmanama svabhava kadoti yadyat sakalam parasmai narayanayeti samarpayeta. In the word Narayana, that's Yajna. So he's saying there, this is the first of the Nava-yogendras in that series of verses. And the whole context is how to get free of fear, how to become fearless. That verse is Bhayam is there, Vidiyam and Vishadaksa. So he says, whatever you do, it covers all bases. With your body, with your words, with your mind, with your senses, with your intelligence, with yourself, all that you have, that you achieve, that you possess, due to your karma, due to your situation, whatever you have, then whatever you do with those, this is how we act. When you analyze it, this is how we're acting in this world. Yet karoti yad yad, whatever, sakalam padasmai Narayan. You think this is an offering to Narayan. This is an offering to Krishna, Radha Krishna. Okay. Samapiyat. So this is actually how we should live. This is why in the purport to 939, which is Yagyartha, Prabhu talks that this is acting in Krishna consciousness. When actually all of your activities, Prabhu talks about work, he means activities of your senses, mind, intelligence, voice, everything is connected as, this is for Krishna's pleasure. I'm sacrificing it for Krishna's pleasure. I'm doing it for his pleasure. Then that's pure devotion. Now, if you get to that point, you'll find that getting free of your karma is long behind. That's finished. You're finding that this is a great pleasure to sacrifice for Krishna. This is the whole revolutionary mentality of Krishna consciousness, because everyone's walking around, moving according to the impetuses of their mind and senses, short range, long range, And that's what life is. But Krishna consciousness means taking that very activity and changing the motivation, changing the orientation. So we're walking from here to there. I'm doing my laundry, right? Or I'm doing my duties of wiping down the tables there. So whether you're going to your tears are going to be flowing and you're going to be using your tears to wipe them down, or you're going to be just doing it because I have to do it. You're still doing it, which is good. You're doing it for Krishna. But it's all in your consciousness. Remembering why you're doing it, who you're doing it for, the wonderment of prasadam, which will be served out there. There's all kinds of levels that you can do all of your services. This is what I'm trying to get at. The very activities that we're doing every day, can each one of them bring us, the highest ecstasy. All depending on our consciousness. So, but the framework is one of sacrifice, and to try to remember that, and realize that as devotees and brahmacharis living like this, or whatever. That's really what Krishna consciousness is all about. You're sacrificing this mentality that I am the enjoyer, I am the controller. And with the orientation that Krishna is meant to enjoy the results of this activity I'm doing. And literally, giving something, and Prabhupada says nectar devotion, one should not come to the temple empty-handed. That may have been, I forgot by now, how we started with this dried food program, which is going on 3 or 4 years, I think. But I was thinking, okay, I should start bringing some dates. I started alone, started doing the dates. Then I realized that dates are a whole trip, you got to take them each one apart. I think it was Radhe who pointed out to me, every so often there's a bug in these dates. We can't have that, so we have to take each one apart, thing like that. Well, that was a sacrifice. But then I said, well, let's move to something else. We went to eventually the apricots. But that's part of the whole program. You don't come empty-handed. You should understand, this is Krishna's temple, and especially if you're coming from outside, coming from outside. So now it's an institution. But you don't want the activity to sink into a routine. The whole idea in Krishna consciousness is to be conscious of everything. And you could see that I'm reading about how Prabhupada, everything he did, he was obviously he was looking at the paintings. They're making these crude paintings, right? The first painter, so like Radharani, she was pretty crude at the beginning too, but Prabhupada loved them. He would look at the paintings, which are, is that Krishna? And then, but he would see Krishna, because they were done pure. They're not done for money, they're done to please him, in other words, it's pure devotion. And he would see Krishna there. Can you imagine? You see the deity here, you actually see Krishna. And when you're seeing like that, you're seeing him see back at you. You know, you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, sometimes he walks, he talks, yeah, depending on your mentality. So the whole thing, we can remember that. Whatever we're doing, it's the consciousness we're doing it with that makes it bhakti, that makes it, and then you feel something. You read you know, the biography of Yamuna, which is an amazing book, you know. How, you know, she was so meticulous. You know, she was like the first Pujari. Prabhupada, he trained her up. She was the one who established the standards in London and even in Vrindavan. You know, she was the one who was making sure that it comes up at first. And you know, that's you know, really where we can measure our own advancement, and we can try to be more conscious in everything, so that it really becomes more than just a sacrifice, which is going to be anyway. You're sacrificing, but it becomes an act of love. It becomes an offering. The difference between offering and sacrifice. Sacrifice is pretty grim. Sacrifice, yeah. But offering, it may be the very same activity, but it's one is more saturated with bhakti. Yeah. Okay. Any questions or comments, Balaram?
Yeah, you mentioned prasadam, and yeah, sometimes, at least in my mind, and maybe in some other devotees' mind, this idea comes up about accepting prasadam from different people, because, you know, everyone has different, you could say, levels of consciousness.
Yeah.
So I mean, even, you know, devotees wonders so far as, you know, deity cooks, you know, their level of consciousness, and how they're doing and what they're thinking and all that, and then offering it to the deities, and then accepting it. But anyways, I'm kind of more referring to, you know, sometimes you go to people's houses and this and that, and they're devotees, and they may be initiated, but sometimes you go to someone's house and, you know, they're sincere and this and that, but, you know, they may be struggling. They don't chant. They don't really chant some rounds. And maybe they're struggling with some, not the mediating principle, but, you know, some other principles. So, so, but it's offered. It's offered food, you know. And same with the deities. I mean, of course, everybody's following, but still, it's, you know, the consciousness. So maybe you could just comment on that idea.
That's an interesting conundrum.
And then some people may actually be following, like they're initiated devotees are following the 4 chant 16 rounds, but I don't know, maybe their mood is like, I don't know, maybe they have some philosophical misconceptions, or they, you know.
Well, you know, one thing I can do, because I'm reading this early days, you know, and a lot of other things. So, you know, first of all, I mean, the pastimes throughout, you know, Prabhupada's time, when he would go to this house, that house, and sometimes he would just ask for some fruit, you know, like that. But you're talking about a different situation where someone is a devotee of a certain standard, but you're not sure it's completely pure. And I would say that in the overall motive, or I don't know, you were gestalt, but I just did, so there it is the idea is that, well, this is for preaching. You know, we want to encourage this person, it's important to go on. So much can be allowed in that context. And then Prabhupada did that, especially in the early days. Now, the danger in that is that the general standard starts to fall, you know, which you don't want. And in the temple, we really have to struggle to keep up the standard, cleanliness standard, and the you know, punctuality, the consciousness of the cooks. It's all very important because that affects everybody. And it's you know, it's a temple. It's Radha Krishna. So that's a constant struggle, and really you know, that is a measure of how we're doing. You know, is that we're eager to keep those standards up. So that in the temple it has to be done. But by the same token, you know, it's prasadam. If someone is sincerely trying to improve and you know, do the right thing, then so much is allowed, and you know, one consecrating is being given. So we can't get, if you get too crazy about it, then everyone starts to doubt and wonder, can I really eat this? And maybe I should make my own offering. And then, you know, so then the unity of the temple is lost, and there's only a few of us holding it together. So I don't want to go there. But when you go out, you know, there's that aspect of, oh, this is for preaching, and you have to know the people, you know, and you may want to talk to them. But if you're pretty sure, you know, then you can say a prayer. The prayer should be said. You know, one should say the prayer over. You should just eat and consecrate it and pray to Lord Srimadeva. That would be okay. Go ahead.
Could you, just interesting, could you explain, where Lord Chaitanya says he would eat in the house of a devotee who doesn't chant 64 rounds? So
yeah, I mean, I don't. If we tried that, then we'd all blow. Actually, I just was reading Prabhu talked to Mukunda. You know, he's in San Francisco and he's getting ready to go back to India. It was such an incredible emotional thing. They thought he wouldn't come back. You know, he was sick. He had this stroke. He almost died. He almost passed away. And there's this whole thing, amazing, in May of '67. It was at the end of May, at Memorial Day. So you know, it's touch and go, and he had him chanting the only two centers in San Francisco. They chanted all night. You know, Sringadeva and Hare Krishna, and everybody was chanting all night for Prabhupada. And so he obviously survived. What was the question then, sir?
why does Lord Chaitanya say that? With 64 rounds, I won't eat.
Oh yeah. So after that, eventually he made his way to San Francisco, and he's getting ready to go back to India. So he, I think it's at Stinson Beach. You know, he was living in a place north of San Francisco, and there was a few devotees that would come and visit him. And Mukunda was there, and he said to Mukunda, "This, you know, you should chant 64 rounds." Mukunda didn't say anything. He just, okay, 32.
Still didn't say anything.
And then he finally, okay, 16. And he says, okay, Prabhupada, I'll say 16. The idea is that, you know, Prabhupada, when he first started it, you know, in 76nd Avenue, that was the standard, 64, he said. And everyone said, oh, we can't, there's no way, you know, came down to 16. So, that was the standard that Lord Chaitanya said, and that was the standard that Bhaktisiddhanta said, right? And what Lord Chaitanya said, he said, I will not accept an invitation to lunch from anyone who's not a lakpati, right? Lakpati. Lak is 100,000. You know, the lakhs, the famous lakhs. You know, right? So the devotees were all depressed, because lakpati generally means you have 100,000 rupees, which means like a millionaire today, a billion, you know. And they were just very simple devotees. No one had that, you know. So they were kind of depressed. Lord Chaitanya laughed. He said, no, I don't mean that lakpati. I mean someone who's not chanting 64 rounds. When you multiply it out, it comes to roughly 100,000 names. He says, oh, that we can do. You know, maybe there were many of them already doing it. You know what I mean? So that was the standard. Now, there's no way we're going to do that, you know. And also do what we're supposed to do. I mean, even if we were assigned to do it, all right, chant. It takes. I was thinking at one point, and hopefully I should get into it now that I'm moving to that final roundup, of coming up to the point of chanting 64 rounds. But if you're going to be part of ISKCON, you know, my understanding is you have to be at the morning program. So that's in a good 4 hours, right? Now, part of it is your japa period. Figure that's 2 hours. But still, that's 2.5. So if you're 5 minutes around, which is really moving it, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, try it sometime. And that apparently what Haridas Thakur is doing, because that's the 16 hours a day. You see, 5 hours and 20 minutes, you can do 64 rounds. If you can actually average 5 minutes around, even at my little thing, you know, timer. But still, you don't have that much time to chant in the morning program, so you have to get up. I figured at 1 o'clock, you know, chant a good, 2 hours before Mangalarti. and then and then really chant for your 2 hours here, and then you just about make 64. And attend the morning program. Not easy to do, 64 hours. But it's something that, to increase the rounds is something that, Prabhupada was expecting over time. It was always at least 16 rounds. So, but for us, it's all mediated by Prabhupada. Prabhupada didn't say that you have to chant 64 rounds in order to make an offering and take this off. It was 16 rounds. So we can go back to God with that because Prabhupada said it. The Acharya said it, and he set that. But still, we should get more and more absorbed in chanting. I wanted to ask some. You had a question too? Okay, go ahead.
Well, you mentioned this concept of being conscious in activity.
Yes.
And I was just thinking the other day how for many devotees, or at least for neophytes like myself, I was saying this has to be one of the greatest unfortunate happenings, or that we're conscious of, we're not really conscious. So like we're here before the deities, we're seeing but we're not really seeing the Supreme Personality of Krishna actually there. Or like we're here, we're chanting japa, the holy name, but we're hearing but we're not really hearing. And so this idea of familiarity breeds content. We're in the association, we're taken to the process, we're doing service, but then it becomes familiar. And so somebody may say that you say Krishna consciousness is a process of ever-increasing bliss, Satchidananda, but I'm not experiencing that. So how would you comment?
Well, that's why the importance of coming to class. All those 4 million people in SanDiego didn't come to class this morning. They didn't hear that, and even the devotees who hearing the books, reading the books, and discussing, hearing and chanting, brings you back. It brings you back to your awareness. Just like, hearing Krishna book, reading Krishna book, then when you chant your round, those thoughts are in your mind. And so the name Krishna means more to you. It just like, if I say Nixon, forgive me for polluting the atmosphere, but there's no question that some idea came about, the guy got impeached, I mean, I'm not going to say the other name of the temple, the present president, but just to suggest it, so many thoughts come in because he's famous right now. You know what I'm saying? So when we do what we're supposed to do and we leave that aside, right? Asatsanga tyaga. That's asatsanga. And we associate with Krishna through the sound of the Bhagavatam and the 10th canto and the kirtans and the devotees and the service. Then when it comes time, when it's just you and the holy name, it'll be easier to concentrate. Because that name will mean so much more to you. It'll have so many connotations, if you want to call it. Just like this morning, I'll tell you, I was chanting, I may have already shared this with you. There's a little 4-verse poem by Rupa Goswami. Little verses, the size of Manmana Bhava, little 8, That's 10 names of Radha. Radha, Damodar, Preshta. I won't give you it all now. It's real short. But there's 2 verses of names, 10 names, and then there's 2 verses of benefits. And the benefits are Imam bin Navadeshwarya Dashanama Manoramam Ananda Chandika Nama Yor Rahasyam Stuti Pade. One who chants this confidential Rahasyam Stuti of 2 verses. 2. And what's the benefit? Sakleshara Hito Gudva, he becomes completely devoid of any suffering. Well, that's pretty good. And then Buddhi Salbhagya Bhushita becomes decorated with huge amount of good fortune. And then Twaditam Karuna Patram Radha Madhava Yogavet. This is a good word for Mayapur, the Radha Madhava. And then very quickly becomes the object of mercy for Radha Madhava. I gave this out. I used to go to that festival with inspiration in New Vrindavan for years. So I would always give some presentations. So one year I laminated like 20, 30 of these prayers with a nice picture of Radha Krishna, and I gave it out. There were more people than 25, but the first 25 got it. He said, okay, here's the little studi, 2 verses, and then here's the benefits, like are off the charts, right? So, and I gave it out, and they tried to teach it to them, and I said, it's so valuable, So I was chanting that this morning, and there's also another one with Krishna with 20 names. I could teach it to you. It's very simple. There's no intimacy. It's about Radha, but there's no, nothing. And so more benefits, but not quite. So just by chanting those this morning, while I was ironing my dhoti, then there was, the kirtan, the deities, everything had more immediacy for me. There wasn't so much static in the mind. Early morning, the dreams, the mode of ignorance, it may be hard to concentrate. But it was clear because I'd focused on that. That's what Krishna consciousness is. It's this culture where you saturate your mind with Krishna, and then everything about Krishna, including the devotees, the service, the sacrifice, the pictures, this temple, everything becomes a source of bliss because it's all about Krishna. But if you don't, if you let it slack, then it gets into niyamagraha. Which is just going through the motions. You're there, but your mind isn't there. Or it is to some degree, but not very much. So hearing about the importance of focus and giving asatsanga tyaga and satsanga and doing, then that's how you can become more conscious in everything you do. And seeing the example. That's why reading about Prabhupada's activities and we do everything and associating with advanced devotees. You get a model. You have to have a model to do it. I wanted to share one thing. I know it's late, but just forgive me. Here's what I wanted to ask you. This verse, Yagyartar Kamano Nyatra, Lokoyam Kampavandana. Now, the translation as given is, work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work causes bondage in this material world. That's half the translation. Therefore, do it for the sacrifice. Now, maybe it's a little too complex at this time. Work done as sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Okay, I'm doing work for Vishnu. I'm sacrificing. I'm coming every Saturday. I put $10 in the hundi, and then I mop the floor. So I'm doing work for Vishnu. That's a sacrifice for Vishnu. And therefore I'm covered. If I don't do that, my other work, which isn't the sacrifice of Vishnu, is going to bind me. You see the problem? Work done as a sacrifice of Vishnu has to be performed doesn't mean the same thing as work has to be performed as a sacrifice for Vishnu, which obviously is what's meant. You understand? Does it make any sense? In other words, you're restricting the work to that performed for Vishnu. That has to be performed. The implication is some of your work has to be done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. Then I'm fulfilling work as a sacrifice. Does it make any sense? So what I'm asking you, would anyone be upset if we changed this, fixed it, bit of revision? Work for Vishnu, work has to be performed as a sacrifice of Vishnu, which Prabhupada explicitly says, therefore one has to work for the satisfaction of Vishnu. The point is that all your work, your activities, whatever you do, body, mind, and words, has to be done as connected to Krishna or Vishnu as a sacrifice, as an offering. Not that at some point I've done something for Vishnu, which is what, as it's said. Anyway, it may not be so clear. I'll explain it at a different time. But what I wanted to know, think about it, whether you would be upset if that, we twisted that a little bit and fixed it. Because right now it doesn't say exactly what is meant. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I was going to spend a little more time, but it's some nice questions.
I think some ISKCON devotees will be happy if you changed it, some will be in trouble, and some will freak out.
Yeah, that's right. Because they won't understand why. See, that's the problem. They see the change, they don't understand. Yeah, you were here. I don't know. Recently, we came across this one in the Peace Formula verse 529, where the last, near the end of the first paragraph, it says, "This is the sense of Krishna consciousness. That Krishna is the master of everything and everyone to serve." Prabhupada dictated. He cut off. He said, "This is the essence of Krishna consciousness. Not this is the sense." So what the transcript says, this sense of Krishna consciousness. And so an editor put in, it should be his thought. This is the sense. And that's what we've had for 50 years.
But actually, the half of it was cut off, the ES. And it should be listed the S. I just found it.
Wow.
Don't find new stuff like
I'll take my
Yeah, it's a big difference, huh?
Well, what do you think? Yeah, because it made some kind of sense to give it. No one really picked up on it. But one Indian gentleman wrote me about something like close to that. And his suggestion was off the wall, but he called my attention to it. I checked the original transcript and I saw what happened. Prabhu just started using the dictation machine. Maybe you don't know, he actually typed out the first 3.5 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. And then he got the dictation machine and went faster. But sometimes he would cut off some words. Because you know how it is, you have to record, then you have to play it back, you know. So he was recording and he cut off half of the word essence and all of it.
So we were reading the teachings of Chaitanya yesterday that the ecstatic symptoms, one of them, isn't that a word?
Yes.
In the teaching of Chaitanya it said it was listed hip coffee.
Yeah, because that's another way of spelling that word.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the proper word.
But if you pronounce like that, hip coffee.
You know, that's what I'm checking right now. Hiccup. Yeah, you would think, how could the hiccough be pronounced hiccough?
Chamiji. Oh. You know, according to Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav, he didn't have any minimum requirement of japa for his Diksha disciples.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Well, and also another misconception is that he is the only Diksha disciple of Gorkishore Das Babaji, but that apparently is not correct.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That I didn't know.
Yeah. And Saints of Bengal, Obi Okafor reproduces a letter that Gorkishore Das Babaji dictated because he was illiterate, he couldn't write himself, but it was to his disciples. And he addressed his disciples in the letter.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I forgot how they spell hiccough.
According to Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did not have any minimum
definitely a bona fide.
You didn't have to make a vow of chanting daily minimum at all.
In fact, it's
He just
more
told
of
his,
a
he just told his disciples just chant as much as you can. No, it's a misconception. I mean, it's kind of everybody says that, but it's not true.
No, I mean, I thought I read that they expected the disciples who had time to do that.
Lived in the temple.
The Montbasis who weren't, if you didn't go out and preach that day, you were expected to chant 64 rounds.
Yeah.
But if you were out preaching that day, then you weren't expected to chant 64 rounds.
Yeah.
Only if you stayed back at the temple and you had no service.
But I think the devotees who went out to preach, they would chant some rounds, like 16 rounds or something like that.
Right, but not 64.
And householders would chant not 64, they chant less 16 or something like that. But those who had time, whatever, pujari or cooks, they would chant more.
Yeah.
We expect 64.
Yeah, it was very reasonable. If you don't have any service, then you chant.
Prabhupada said in Active Instruction, he said that according to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, anyone who chants 64 rounds is considered fallen. And he said so in his calculation, we all considered fallen, but because Lord Chaitanya's Bhakti Pavana, we're okay or somewhat,
Yeah.
But he said that we have reduced the number of rounds to 16 rounds because the Westerners cannot stay long and concentrate for a long period of time. The Westerners can't concentrate for a long period of time.
Yeah.
I can't.
I can't. I've tried many times, it didn't work. I wanted to discuss your notion more. We have breakfast. I have some points to make about it. Some points that were brought up that I feel like are pretty important in regards to that question.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.